So welcome everyone, and this is the first of our AWS meetups after quite a long break. So I think we're aware that many people are fatigued with online talks. So I think as a user group, we wanted to try and do something a little bit different. So as part of that, it's, you know, we're intending to focus on two sort of distinct areas. So the first is on hands-on workshops. So that's going to encourage people to become builders and to try getting hands-on, trying out some of the AWS services. So be looking out for a number of these workshops that we'll be announcing shortly. And then the second thing is around certification. And this is the reason for this talk. The reason for this meetup today is to announce the AWS Get Certified Challenge. And this time around, it's the Solutions Architect Associate certification. So I don't know if anyone reads any of the reports. There's a report that came out from A Cloud Guru, the State of Cloud Learning Report in 2020. And this had some findings in it where it was sort of saying that 82% of hiring managers believe that cloud certifications make a candidate more attractive. And then 87% value this sort of hands-on and experience and certifications over university degrees. So we start seeing that, there's more and more desire to try and become certified if you can. And obviously the bullet point at the bottom talks about many people identified a higher salary as a result. So we know that many people are trying to get into cloud computing. There's a huge demand. There's probably more demand than there is supply. So it's a great opportunity for people to try and upskill, to try and increase, improve the value of their resume. And that's why we're really excited to run this course. Now, at this point in time, you hopefully see the Mobilize logo in the top corner. So Mobilize are, they've been our sponsor since day one. So I'm delighted to welcome Jim Carney. Hi, Jim.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I just wonder if you quickly introduce yourself and Mobilize.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. It's a real shame we can't yet quite meet up in person. Hopefully, we'll be able to see each other soon again and have another good event. So my name's Jim Carney. For those of you who don't know me, so I'm the CTO and one of the founders of Mobilize. So Mobilize, again, for those of you who don't know, a lot of you who will, from meeting and chatting at the previous meetups. So Mobilize do a number of things. We're an AWS partner. We're an AWS Advanced Consulting partner. We're an AWS Well-Architected partner. We're an AWS Migration partner, a public sector partner. We're the UK's only AMS partner. We're an MSP partner. We've got lots and lots of AWS partnerships. We do lots of things with AWS, from migrating workloads to running EC2 workloads to application modernization, moving things to containers, Kubernetes, and serverless. We've also got a data analytics practice. We also do quite a lot of stuff with Connect, contact center modernization, and virtual assistants. So we're just also about to become another sort of partner in AWS, which is a Connect service delivery partner.
Cool. So that sounds exciting.
Sounds
so
busy.
when you So when you talk about Mobilize being an AWS consulting partner, how important is certification with that?
Very important for us. So there's three dimensions, I would say, to the importance of certification. One, when we go to hire, at the moment, we're recruiting all the time. We're lucky to be in a growing industry. There's lots of opportunities out there. So we're constantly looking for staff, and staff with a AWS cert is a great benchmark for us. Really nice to have. However, people with AWS certs are not always that easy to come by. By getting yourselves an AWS cert, especially an associate level one or above, you're doing yourself a real favor in terms of the job market. So please, use this exercise to push on with that. The second dimension for us is our customer-facing dimension. So when we run consultancy exercises and put guys either on-site or virtually on-site, or embed them within project teams. Our customers expect our engineers to have a certain level of expertise. And it's great for us to be able to say, okay, we will only put X amount of people on site or on the project who have these sorts of qualifications. So within Mobilize, for example, everybody does the practitioner qualification, including, you know, salespeople, anybody who works within the business. And then pretty much we kind of mandate over time when we recruit people, you have to have an associate or above. At the moment, we're encouraging the guys who've been with us a longer amount of time to go and get the pro and specialization certs. And then the third dimension, really, in terms of why certs are really important for us, is we're something called an advanced consulting partner. I think that's the second or third tier up. We're one tier from the top of the sort of AWS partner tree, which is a premier consulting partner. Now, in order to meet that criteria, actually the biggest challenge for an organization like us, which doesn't have hundreds and hundreds of people, is there is a hard limit on the number of certs that we've got to have to make that criteria. So to be an advanced consulting partner, we've got to have X amount of certs across the business. To get to the next level, we need even more certs to get to that. So AWS themselves are pretty hot on auditing companies like us who go out to market saying we're an AWS partner, on ensuring that we've got a certain level of number of people who hold certificates at various different levels. So we get audited on the amount of cloud practitioners we hold, the amount of associates we've got, and the amount of pro and specialty accreditations we hold.
That's great. And then as a, you know, like I say, you've very kindly sponsored this user group since day one, and you've also offered to help out specifically with around this certification in terms of things like vouchers. I don't know if you can just say a little bit about that.
Yeah, so like we did on the previous Get Certified challenge, we effectively put some money into offering some free exam vouchers. So what we're going to do this time, we'll put some money in the pot for some exam certs. So when people are ready, they can draw down on from that. In an ideal world, we'd have enough certs for everybody. But what we'll do, what we want to try to do is have a priority list. So where we can try to offer those certificates to underrepresented members of our community, whether that be LGBT or BAME. And then if we've got any left over, hopefully we will, then we'll randomly give out those other certs to the guys registered on this. We'll run all that, and I think Matt might have pinged out an invite previously, and they probably mentioned it now. We'll run all that process via the Discord server, as we did through the last exercise. So I'll put a post on there about the details about how you apply and how we'll allocate those free exam certs.
Awesome. Thanks very much for that, Jim. So yeah, as Jim mentioned, we also run a Discord server. You know, we're trying to, like I say, we're trying out a new approach this time in terms of trying to live stream this on YouTube. So what we'll do, if people want to ask questions, they can just leave them as comments, and we'll drag people in to try and help answer those questions. So the intention now is I'll quickly run through. I'll put the link to the Discord server in one of the comments. I'll run through in terms of what AWS are offering. As a community, we're trying to offer a little bit more on top in terms of we're running through stuff through a Discord server. We're looking to run a few sort of certification classes in terms of where we can bring people in and give talks on various different topics. And we may actually try and run a few sort of interactive Q&A type sessions where we can give away some credits or do something just to try and make it a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more fun. So if I carry on with the presentation in terms of what AWS are offering. So with their challenge, you know, we'll put the link in terms of where to sign up the challenge in a couple of slides. you can sign up to the challenge. They provide this sort of resource hub with a number of resources and links of activities that you can go and access, schedule the exam, and hopefully at the end of it, you can come out becoming a certified solution architect associate. And, I think Jim mentioned last time we ran it, it was cloud practitioner. This time we're going for solutions architect associate. So it's an associate level certification. It talks here about sort of the recommended experience in terms of 1 year hands-on. But one of the things that we're going to do is, we've got 3 people that will be coming up at the end and just giving a talk. They're all people that have recently passed this exam and just give a little talk about their experience. So feel free to, ask questions and understand what their experience has been and what background they have. Some of the top tips that came out the last time, part of it is, it's good to try and join up to a challenge because hopefully it can keep people motivated. So rather than trying to battle through this on your own, join up. And especially we're trying to drive it through the Discord and running a few online workshops that, you can feel part of a team and there's a bit more collaboration to try and, encourage you to keep going. And, as part of this, as a user group, we're looking to offer a number of paid for exams. AWS are also offering a 50% discount voucher for anyone that's interested to use that as well. And there's a number of sort of key dates that are here. So we wanted to run this now, get this meetup started now, because next week, the ability to sign up to the challenge has already started. Next week on Twitch, you can start running they're running these AWS Power Hour, where they're going through some of the subjects on the certification course. And then you can go online and you can request your 50% discount voucher, schedule, take the exam. And then the recommended resources. What we can do is we can make these slides available. So if you're part of the meetup group, we'll basically just email them out or share a link to these resources. And these will be available on the resource hub. So I'll give the links to all of this when you sign up. So finally, we know that, as of a number of weeks ago, the challenge is now live. So I'll post the URL into the chat at some point. And there are also a number of upcoming events as well to mention before we start hearing from some of the people that have recently passed the exam. So this Friday, for anyone interested, it's the biggest event AWS run in this space, which is a Women in Cloud event, specifically focusing around EMEA. So that's taking place this Friday. Let me just quickly grab the URL for that and drop that into the chat. And there's also they're also offering a free practice exam. Now, I'm not sure if this is just for the developer associate or also covers the other exams that are mentioned there. But again, we'll drop that link into the chat. Let's see if I can do that now quickly. But like I say, there are quite a few things that are on offer at the moment that people can take advantage of. So that's a very quick whistle-stop tour through what's on offer. Hopefully people will be able to go and sign up for the challenge. So now what I wanted to do is introduce some people and start bringing in one by one to give you their experience of it. So I was going to start off, I'm not sure if people remember Ryan from last year. So Ryan is a senior specialist solution architect at AWS, specializing in Microsoft workloads. So last year, Ryan very kindly, I guess it's one of those things around community, actually ran a whole series of effectively certification courses for the cloud practitioner, including giving up his weekends to give some of those. So, Ryan, I know you've been busy with a number of things. You're now a published author, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if like I say, you said that you've taken the exam relatively recently, and if you can just talk about a little bit about your experience, any questions that any help or tips that you could give to people.
Yeah, Matt, thank you for inviting me on. It's great to speak to you and Jim again. And hello to everyone. I can see some names I recognize from the last Get Certified Challenge. That was really successful. A lot of people gained their first AWS certification with that. We're going to continue on with Solution Architect Associate. So if I can just speak about the exam. I took this exam the first time 6 years ago, I think, 6-7 years ago, without much AWS experience at all, and without a lot of preparation either. Passed by the skin of my teeth, and I had to recertify in the last couple of weeks. So I took this exam again. I took this exam at home rather than in a test center. So once we got past the logistics of setting this all up at home, which was a lot easier this time, I think, really. It was a great exam, just as I remembered it, really. Successfully passed, really, which is great. The solution architect, and there was a question on chat around the differences between the different associate level exams. The solution architect really has a theme, and that theme is placing you in the role of a solution architect and having to design AWS solutions for customers in our well-architected manner, really. So lots of questions where if you've got a good understanding of the kind of messages that we talk about, highly available and cost optimized, elastic and flexible, then you'll do well. But yeah, it's a great exam to continue your journey with.
Yeah, I ended up in terms of, so I put the question on screen, and this was around comparing the different types of qualifications, so sort of developer versus solution architect. I guess, I guess I'm lucky enough I hold both of those. It was like the developer one, it seems to be going more and more, like there isn't a serverless specialty exam, and the developer definitely seems to be going down more, like a focus on services like Lambda and DynamoDB. And it seems to be going deeper into a handful of services that you'd expect. And the solution architect is, to me, it was more around, a good knowledge of the services and when might a service be most applicable to be used. I guess that would be my take on that. I don't know when we bring up other people if they have a view on it. Other people have other questions. We can bring those up as well. Is there any top tips that you'd give people studying for this?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to follow up with what you're saying there, really, I do believe the Solution Architect Associate exam is the perfect exam to continue with after the Cloud Practitioner. Although we give any student a free rein in the journey they take, you can go from Cloud Practitioner to one of the Pro exams if you wanted to. We're not going to stop you doing that. But I do think that going from Cloud Practitioner to Solution Architect, and then maybe if you want to continue SysOps and Developer before you tackle those Pro or Specialty exams, I think that's a journey that makes sense to me, really. The kind of knowledge you'll gain from revising and learning about the Solution Architect will stand you in really good stead with all of the other exams that you have to follow. In terms of preparation, I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for the exam. So what I used, I have access to a number of sources internally, and also public sources like, we have sites like A Cloud Guru. There's also the Adrian Cantrell series of courses. They can get really expensive. What I found most useful for me is using questions, and there's lots of sites out there that give you practice questions, but then also give you the reasons why something is the right answer and something is not maybe the right answer. So what I felt in the short amount of time I had for preparation, going through questions and then following up with the white papers, with the blog posts, with the documentation links, where I got things wrong. Yeah, that was a nice condensed way of preparing for the exam for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. So next up, I'd like to welcome Sharon Mitchell. So she's one of the one of the cohorts on DVLA's Cloud Academy. So welcome, Sharon. So I believe you've recently also passed the AWS Solution Architect Associate. And so just wanted to understand if you could give us a bit more about your background, how much experience, how you got into cloud.
Okay. Well, I did actually come from a technical background, but I had quite a long career break caring for family. So I'm a bit of a career returner, really. So I guess you could say, well, I started from a blank slate. And the Cloud Academy program put us through quite an intensive 12-week boot camp. And two of the qualifications that were part of that boot camp were the Cloud Prac and the Solutions Architect, which is what we're talking about today. So in terms of cloud experience then, I didn't really have any. I'd used some Google Cloud Platform APIs in some of my own personal projects, but that's about it. I didn't really know anything about infrastructure as code, cloud infrastructure. So I really was starting from like a blank slate. So yeah, if I can do it, you know, don't worry about it. It's not difficult, and the exams, they're not there to catch you out. The format tends to be multiple choice, multiple response. For example, you'll get a question, and there'll be 4 answers, and you have to pick the right one. Or occasionally there's 5, choose 2. Rarer than that is 6, choose 3. But it's usually 4, choose 1. And there's quite a signature to them. And you'll find that the more practice tests that you do, you will pick up on that signature, and you'll see immediately there are 2 answers that you can immediately discount. And then it's just a toss-up between the other 2. And if you read the question again, you'll realize that the answers perhaps differ in just 1 or 2 words. And then you'll think, right, it's that one, you know. You've got 2 hours to do the paper, 65 questions. So you've got quite a lot of time to read and, you know, reread them if you're not quite sure. Sorry.
I was going to say, I know when I took it, one of the one of the things that I found is you often, there's a big thing about not trying to panic, but you also sort of found that as you went through, there were sometimes later questions that based on the question, it sort of firmed up an answer or something on a previous question. You know, when you start seeing these patterns, then they start talking about a service. Like, oh yeah, that's what must have been, that was referring to. It's just the. So the other thing I was going to ask. So obviously there's an interesting question I just put on screen from John, which is talking about how much of a stretch is it going from cloud practitioner to solutions architect. So obviously as part of this sort of 12-week intensive program, you were sort of saying that you were starting from essentially scratch. You took the cloud practitioner and then you took the solutions architect. So this wasn't a 1-year hands-on experience. Things like how did you find that jump from the cloud practitioner to the solutions architect associate?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. And you will find, you know, if you imagine there's a Venn diagram of cloud prac syllabus and solutions architect, there's quite a lot of set intersection in the middle. There's quite a lot of overlap. Cloud prac is quite generalist, and as your speaker was saying earlier, it's good for Salesforce teams as well, because it will cover things like costing and billing, whereas solutions architect is definitely more technical. So you don't have any of that costing or billing things to worry about. It's more about high availability, architecting for high availability, and the technical services that AWS offers. So your compute, your databases. I don't think there was any Lambda in there, so it's not uber technical. It's quite low level. So it's not really that much of a stretch to answer your question, going from cloud prac to solutions architect. You'll find that you will have to focus more on the technical side of things. So the compute, the database, the persistent storage, so your S3 then. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, sounds good. And is there, would there be any top tips that you'd give to someone in terms of from your experience of going through it, over and above what you've already talked about?
I did a lot of practice papers. I found a lot of, I'm lucky in that my employer has an enterprise license to Udemy, so I was a heavy user of that. And you can find courses on there that are purely practice papers for this exam, this, what is it, SAA CO2, I think. So you can go through those. They are timed, but you can take as long as you want. There's no detriment. It's just your own thing. And the nice thing about those is they'll give you feedback at the end. Sort of if you did get things wrong, you can drill down and it will explain why the answer is the answer that it is. And I found that really helped bolster my learning then, because it sort of filled in the gaps in my revision.
I mean, did you find then that taking the practice exams, you kind of got used to the style of questions?
Yes.
And then potentially the sort of things that people were going to be looking at?
Definitely. And that going back to what I was saying about there's a signature to the papers. The more practice papers that you do, you will pick up on that and you will think, well, yes, okay, every time I'm presented with a 4-answer, choose one question, 2 of them you can instantly discount, and then you can spend your time differentiating between the 2 possible candidates you've got left. So yes, the more practice papers you do, you will definitely pick up on that.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you very much for that, Sharon.
Okay.
And now, finally, last but not least, we've got Dan Jones. So, Dan very kindly came on and talked to us, it was probably last year, after just passing the Cloud Practitioner exam. So now he's taken that forward again, another member of the Cloud Academy, and has passed the Solution Architect Associate. So I don't know if you want to talk about your previous experience. And then also, again, there was, like I said, I did think it was an interesting question about the stretch of going from Cloud Practitioner, which you passed previously, to Solution Architect Associate.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Matt. Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's really nice to be back. If anyone still remembers me from last time, they let me back. Yeah, I'm Dan. I've worked with DVLA for about 3.5 years now. Used to be a sort of call center phone monkey, but now I've sort of joined the cloud enablement team with Sharon in the Cloud Academy. I do want to preface it by saying I have a little bit of a different background from Sharon. I came to this with like 0 IT experience, so no cloud provider knowledge at all. I mean, really, I didn't even know how to open a terminal window or what an IP address was. So it was pretty serious. But I've been really fortunate to actually get in with the Cloud Academy program, because it's taught me so much and actually really sort of changed my sort of career path. It's really been the beginning of my IT journey. Started off really not knowing anything, but as with any new skill, total immersion was really the order of the day. It helped me so much, and I got really lucky, with the Academy actually let me set aside 12 weeks to actually really like intensively get through all these programs. So in total, I've now got the 3 AWS certifications. So it's the Cloud Prac, Solutions Architect, which is obviously what we're talking about today, and the SysOps Associate. I'm currently starting work towards my Developer Associate as well. So that one is probably going to be a little bit more technical, but we'll see what happens. As our course instructor, Andy, tells us, once you start, they're a bit like Pokemon, because you've got to catch them all. So from there, yeah, it really has been my gateway into IT. I really enjoy learning about stuff I don't understand, and so that's quite a lot. But so far, I've taken like courses in JavaScript and Ansible, Terraform, doing some pen testing. I even built a computer like the other weekend, which is like completely next level for me. So that's me. Yeah, about the exam. So to be frank, I did find the SAA exam a little bit tricky. I mean, obviously not knowing really how to use a computer to start off with was a bit of a barrier. But yeah, I think it was because I was a little underprepared. Maybe I didn't have as much experience and working knowledge as I could have done. I know the recommendation is something like 12 months of working with AWS or looking at AWS. So we had about 2. So I could have had a bit more. But I was in quite a fortunate position where there wasn't any pressure. If I failed, I could do some resits if I want, and I had a lot of time to study for it.
I mean, did it help having, because presumably there was a cycle in terms of, an expectation around taking the exam, even if you were booking it yourself, that this wasn't something that I'm going to hold off and book it in 6 months' time. It's there going, I want to be achieving this in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks or something, but actually having a date in the diary to focus on and go for. Is that the type of thing that happened?
Absolutely. I couldn't. This is for me personally. I need to have something to work towards. So if it was the case that just do it whenever you want, I would never have done it. I think I would have pushed it back and back and back, and it would have never happened. But I'm glad there was a bit of a time pressure. So we want it done by the end of the 12 weeks, and thankfully I got it done a little bit before then, so I had time to move on to the SysOps Associate as well.
And I guess for those who are maybe new to taking an AWS certification, currently in the environment, these are sort of proctored exams. How did you find taking the exam at home as opposed to going into a test center?
Well, I've never had the alternative. I've never been to a test center for a technical exam, but it was a weird experience having to sit there. Sort of, it's my own house, but I have to be in exam conditions, and I had to empty the room I was in and have to sit on camera. So I thought, can't, have to be careful. But yeah, it was a bit uncomfortable. You do get used to it very quickly. I think now I've sort of done 2 or 3 online practice exams, it's really not a problem at all. It's sort of, I kind of prefer that to the idea of having to go all the way to a test center on a certain day. It seems a lot more inconvenient.
Awesome. And would there be any other sort of top tips that you give to people, especially if they may be nervous in terms of trying to sign up to do something like this, or think it might be beyond them? Any tips that you'd have?
Yeah, well, a few. Yeah, I'd had to think about it, and it's not the case that you have to know absolutely everything about everything, because the exam sort of questions are weighted. So some things are worth more points than others. Some of them are sort of only worth like a little bit. Some of them are worth a bit more. I will admit I did make a guess on a question or 2 on my exam. And as Sharon quite rightly said, you usually get the 2 wrong answers that jump out. You can pick the best of the 2. And what I would say is, in the way the questions are worded, it sort of goes back to the jump from Cloud Prac to SAA. The way the questions are worded, they're a lot more verbose. So they throw a lot of sort of irrelevant things, not as bad as the SA Pro, which I've had a look at, which is like, this is Dan, he likes tuna sandwiches, it's a Tuesday afternoon, he needs to build this thing. How do you build the thing? And everything before it was useless. They really do chuck a few things in there to trip you up. But what you can really look for, as Ryan said, is the real buzzwords like most resilient or cost effective or high availability, and it'll really help you drill down on the correct answer. As long as you remember that, really, most of the questions can be fairly common sense as long as you've done your prep.
Cool, that's great. Now I'm going to attempt to try and bring a few more people into the chat. Like I say, it's the first time we tried to use this software, so I have no idea how this is going to go. Well, it appears to be working. So there are, so like I say, if anyone has, before we call time, if anyone has questions, so I'll bring a couple of the ones on the screen. So there's a question around having completed Developer Associate. What's the current thoughts regarding going for Solution Architect Associate compared to the pro level exam. You know, I'm assuming that's referring to the SA Pro exam. Like I say, there isn't a developer pro. You know, I think Dan sort of touched a little bit on things like the SA Pro in terms of it's a, you know, it is a harder exam once you get to professional and specialty level. You know, it's difficult if you already have the developer associate. You know, the thing I found with the SA Pro exam is it's, you know, again, it's 3 hours long. It's pretty intense. The questions are incredibly long. And, you know, the kind of the difference was that it's a, you know, it wasn't an attempt to, well, they weren't trying to trick you, but I think a lot of the time in some of the associate exams, it's these are the 2 right answers and this is the wrong answer or something like that. You know, there were things that were quite explicit. While once you get to things like the professional and the specialty levels, it's more about, you know, which is the better choice. So all of the options may work, but some may be more well architected. It may offer higher availability, something like that. And you know, I guess I took the SA Pro because I wanted to challenge. And then the hardest thing then was there's, you know, like I say, when I took it, there was a real focus around things like networking, around a lot of the stuff around data migration and so on. There were things that weren't actually relevant to the day job as such. So all of a sudden it was investing a lot of time trying to learn in quite some detailed services that you weren't ever going to use, or at least in your current job. That was the challenge for me. I mean, like I say, I like the SA Associate one. I kind of think it gives you a baseline knowledge across a number of services without having to go deep in a specific area. I don't know if anyone else has any views.
Oh, definitely. So I think SA Associate is a great exam. I mentioned earlier, I think it's a great follow-on from Cloud Practitioner. To look at Elizabeth's question, so Elizabeth has the option with having secured successfully the Developer Associate to go on and do the DevOps Pro exam. However, I think having Solution Architect Associate before you go for the DevOps Pro just gives you a more rounder set of knowledge around, you know, best practices and developing in a solution architect, well architected way. That will definitely come in handy with some of those DevOps Pro questions as well.
Yeah, and I would say from an employer point of view, we really like the SA Associate because absolutely it's very, very wide. It's not so deep in terms of subject matter, but what it does, it gives you a good knowledge of lots of things. So, and I would sort of echo the sort of sentiments. If you want to go for the pro, why not? You know, do the associate first. Use that as a baseline, and then work off that for your pro. But I think the associate, of all the AWS qualifications for engineering people, especially DevOps guys or girls, having that kind of sort of broad level is a really good qualification.
Cool. And then finally, so I think this would be the last question, unless any more come down to the comments, in terms of what sort of time commitment do you think it needs to put in weekly to try and get the SA Associate?
Well, as Dan was saying, we were really lucky in that we were isolated in this 12-week boot camp. So nothing else was expected of us. So we were able to put all our time into it, basically, which, you know, not everybody can afford to do. They have the day job, and this is something that they might get one afternoon a week, or they might even be expected to do it in their own time outside of that. I think, you know, if you put in 5 hours a week, which is, you know, 1 hour a day, at the end of your day, you'll be good to go in a few weeks. Seriously, you don't have to go very deep into into subject knowledge. It's kind of T-shaped. It's very wide, but it's a shallow T. You know, it's wide but not very deep, if that makes sense. Would you agree with that, Dan?
Yeah, I'd have to echo that. Really, if, you know, between like, I would say 5 or 7 hours a week, you know, hour a day. If you wanted to, a couple hours at a weekend, you would be set probably within about 4 or 5 weeks tops. There are a few very formulaic sort of things that you can do to learn, and definitely there are good resources on Udemy, AWS Guru, things like that. That, you know, it'll be really handy if you do decide to do that.
Yeah, one thing about the Udemy courses, it wasn't just exam courses I signed up from there. It was actual lecture courses as well. And one of the really good resource I found was by a chap called Neil Davis. He runs digital cloud training, and his lectures they're chunked into time. So if you think, well, I've only got an hour today, what can I do? I'll do that one, because it will give you the timestamp of the duration. You can say, well, I can cover EC2, or I can cover S3 today. And he'll also lay out like a revision plan for you as well. So you've got a timetable of what you're studying when, and then perhaps by this week, this day of this week, you can do this practice paper, and then you'll continue, and it's all chunked up lovely for you. You just have to show up and do it. It's great.
That's great. Okay, thank you very much for those questions. So, you know, with that, we don't have any more questions coming in. You know, I would have the one, you know, my big ask is, you know, join the meetup group, join the Discord server. I think one of the things that we're going to try and do is run some, you know, as well as the fact we can do some sort of study sessions, I kind of think it'd be quite fun to do some interactive, you know, what I always found was taking practice exams worked best for me. That's the one that sort of combines the, you know, allowed me to find out exactly where I was, and allowed me to know if there were areas, because I always kind of think you sometimes you may overstudy and panic and not, you know, not want to take the exam and put it off and almost over prepare. So I kind of think the exams help you. So I think it'd be good to try and, you know, we'll run 1 or 2 sessions where we can do quizzes, give a few prizes. And just as I say the questions are over, there is a question that's come in talking about data science and machine learning specialty. I don't know if anyone has comments around that. It's one that I haven't done. I know a few people who have, and they talk about it being a, you know, you really do have to understand a lot about some of these machine learning algorithms. So there's a lot which isn't actually, you know, which is generic around the computer science and the algorithms around the machine learning, and not specifically around AWS or the AWS services. You know, it sounds a fascinating one, and I know people with no machine learning background who have gone to take it. It's a, you know, like I say, I haven't taken it myself though. I don't know if anyone else has any views on it.
I've not taken it either. Again, I've known quite a few people who pass it. We have a lot of AWS ML services now. If this is your field, then absolutely, it's one of those specialty exams. So you just focused on one topic, but that one topic is quite broad, really. So there's lots of information out there that can help you. Lots of courses and tests that you can do. So good luck if you're going down that route.
Awesome. And so with that, sign up to the meetup group, sign up to the Discord server, keep an eye on, we won't be running some workshops, sign up to this challenge. And I'd like to thank Jim and Mobilize for sponsoring the event and for making some tickets available, you know, especially around sort of, you know, diversity and underrepresented groups. And a big thank you also to Ryan, to Sharon, and for Dan for sharing their experience. So with that, thank you very much, and we hope to see you all soon.